The wealth gap just exploded. The median renter in America has a net worth that is only 1/40th that of the average homeowner. With the wealth gap increasing at this rate, it's beginning to change our economy. Guys, what is causing this and how far will it go? Yo, welcome back, guys. Glad to have you. What do you guys think? Have these uniparty, corporatist, neoliberal policies put us on a fast track to class warfare and an upper class that takes advantage of an increasingly desperate lower class? Or would a classical liberal or classically liberal adjacent figure like Donald Trump even be enough to turn things around at this point? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm super interested. We got a different video segment. It's not exactly related to this, but it's highlighting the exact same kind of issue that I think that this divide between our classes is accentuating right now, and it's kind of making this point too. So I think it's a great introduction into this article that we're going to read today, guys.
It's the new face of homelessness in America. Folks who are working full-time but with nowhere to live. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, nearly 19,000 people enter homelessness for the first time each week. Many of them, up to half, according to some studies, have a job. In 2022, Knoxville, Tennessee saw the largest rent growth of any metro area nationwide. While the spike is slowing down, more than half of renters are spending 30% or more of their income on housing. For others, affording a house or apartment is simply no longer possible. In the first of our two-part series, our correspondent Jessica Gomez travels.
I think it highlights a very serious issue in our economy and how rent and housing is a growing portion of people's monthly incomes, and how we have a massive portion of this country that are living as renters and are living paycheck to paycheck, if that, and we really falling through the cracks here, and it's mainly due to economic consolidation that is a byproduct of the exact neoliberal corporatist overregulation, the partnership and relationship between government and executives, and just the way that it entrenches individuals in their class rather than allowing for class mobility is the serious issue. And I think that all of this highlights that, guys. So I think it's a really great opportunity to get into this. I got an article that we're going to get into from my website, actually. It's chromo.com, that talks about the dangers of neoliberalism and exactly how neoliberalism reframes economies into exactly what we're seeing, guys. So let's get into everything real quick. The median renter in America has a net worth of $10,400, while the median homeowner has a net worth of $400,000. Well, that's interesting because they define the upper class as starting at $400,000. So very interesting how they're saying that they're basically saying the gap between the classes are increasing, and the numbers are showing that. 2 years ago, Elizabeth Grantham decided she didn't want to rent much longer, so she moved from her hometown in the pricey San Francisco Bay Area to Washington State to save up money to buy a home. Our rent was getting raised every year. Even the cost of parking space at our apartment complex went up, Grantham said, who was 31, recently told CNN. Then eventually you move, and soon that rent starts to rise. That's because all rents rise year over year. It's all everywhere you go. I mean, yeah. But that's how it's gone for most of my adult life. The story of the housing market over the past few years has been characterized by a growing divide between haves and have-nots, those who rent and those who own a home. The existing homeowners in America have seen their wealth on paper explode as prices have surged across the country. At the same time, after a slight dip in rents after the start of the COVID pandemic, rents have also spiked, eating into many people's savings. And that goes between the difference. So the upper class has investments that are not paper or monetary. So as inflation increases, of the upper class, financially their wealth seems to increase. Although everyone's cost of living also increases, so it's different. Although the upper class's cost of living increases at a slower rate than the lower class, so that it creates an entire divide as the upper class almost gets to use their investments and their finances to continue to leverage inflation to increase their wealth. The lower class is stuck losing value and losing purchase power to that exact same inflation. And so by nature, it increases the divide, guys. That is the main problem here. And you're going to notice, especially through propaganda outlets like CNN, the way that they're going to try to frame this is not over greater market forces and neoliberal policies. So throughout this whole article, they're going to ignore the overregulation of housing, the overregulation of housing construction, and the overregulation of zoning. Okay, zoning, the overregulation of zoning and the overregulation of housing construction prevents a lot of affordable homes, and it also prevents a lot of people from starting their own business within their home, which helps increase class mobility. Those are major factors. Those are major factors that affect the macroeconomic influences over the housing market that create this whole situation. And they're not going to tell you it because they're going to do the same thing that they're doing in Canada. They're going to do the same thing that they're doing in other countries that are a bit further down this line than we are. And they're going to start pitting renters and homeowners against each other. And just like how we saw Kamala Harris lose by pushing price controls in the grocery store, they're going to start pushing price controls for rent because they want to squeeze the middle class, that the rest of the upper middle class that's hanging on to the properties they own, and the rest of the upper class that's renting out properties that are not part of these major investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard. They want to push them out and they want to replace them, okay? Because the idea is to create a whole new style of economy that is mainly based on subscriptions. Rather than owning something, you rent it. That's the idea. That if you look at UN Agenda 2030 and everything, that's where that's going. That's why you see Bill Gates. That's why you see Vanguard. That's why you see BlackRock buying up all these homes, in my opinion. And that's why you see all this stuff going on. I personally think that's why you see the overregulation of the housing market in order to push people into renting. The whole 9 yards. And they're not going to point this out to you. They're just going to try to make it look like greedy homeowners are trying to make all their money off the renters. And so they're going to try to present a false dichotomy because that is exactly what these corporatist outlets do. These corporatist outlets put us into a position where we are suffering from austerity measures, and then they pit us against each other as we get more desperate so they can continue to take advantage of us. That's exactly what they do, in my opinion. So that's what I expect to see in this article. A recent report from the Aspen Institute highlights the gaping wealth chasm that is formed between homeowners and renters in America. The median homeowner in America has a net worth of $400,000 as of 2022 in the most recent data available, while the median renter's net worth is just $10,400, according to the report. That means the typical homeowner is almost 40 times as much wealthy, has as much wealth as the typical renter. Next month, Grantham will finally achieve her goal of homeownership when she and her partner close on a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom starter in Tacoma, Washington in January. They settled on the location about an hour outside of Seattle because home prices were more reasonable compared to major cities. Grantham said her long-term goal is to build up home equity. We'll be paying a little bit more for a mortgage than our rent, but we're okay with that because we're kind of paying ourselves. That's true, and that's exactly what I was trying to allude to earlier. But way better, way more eloquent way to put it. You're building equity, and the upper class is able to use their wealth to build equity, and they're able to leverage inflation to continue to build equity, while the lower class does not have access to those tools by the nature of the wealth that they're able to wield. And then. Earlier, they mentioned she was talking about 40 times. 40 times. That's insane. 40 times wealth gap between the rich and the poor. That's wild. Can you imagine how much these people can entrench their wealth? How much more influence they have over regulators? When you have that level of wealth gap, is the lower class even is it even possible for the lower class to be adequately represented by the halls of government? Think about the disparity of influence. I mean, think about it. It's not only is it a change in our economy, but it has the potential to threaten our democracy, threaten our republic, however you want to say it, man. Threaten people's representation, right? Genuinely. And then on top of that, guys, it's not normal. The level of savings that people need to buy a home is not normal. In the 80s, a home was about 3 times as much as someone's national or yearly income, right? Someone's annual income was only 1/3 of what it took for them to buy a home. Okay, now it is many times that. Many times that. I believe it's like 9 or 10 times. So the the fight that people have to go through to get a home now as opposed to what it was just in the 80s. I mean, society largely resembled what it is today in the late 80s, man. Like dude, people are playing a different game. And I was talking about this the other day when I was during the Malay video from the other day, right? We looked through 3 different articles discussing how Malay is doing in his economy. We were talking about the investment and when you're born and the investment that it makes in your economy when you're born into it, right? Inflation plays a huge role. Things like this play a huge role. Let's say you were born in 1970, right? And then by 1989, you're able to get a home because it's only 3 times as much what you're making annually. But yet then by 1999, someone who was born in 1980 is facing a very different situation buying a home than the person who was born in 1970. You see what I'm saying? And so it creates a very different perspective. And people don't like the dude who bought the home that was 3 times his annual income is not aware that this other guy is fighting to buy a home that's now 4 times, 6 times his annual income. You get what I'm saying? And now it's gone to the point where in Canada, I think it's anywhere from 10 to 12 times the annual income trying to buy a home. Dude, it's gotten impossible, man. And there are macroeconomic factors leading to this more than just, hey, get your hustle on. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. There's more than that. The elite are reframing the rules that we have to play by in order to make things harder for us, guys. And we have to acknowledge that and we have to address it. Otherwise, we are going to be playing on the back foot this whole time and things are only going to get worse for us. Graham said her long-term goal is to build up home equity. For others, the dream of homeownership feels a long way off. I want to be an owner so bad, TikTok creator Jordan Swanson said in a recent video. In this economy, it's literally impossible. Those who want to buy their first homes have faced the two-punch of rising home prices and stubbornly high mortgage rates. The median existing home sales was 407 in October, according to the National Association of Realtors. That's the 16th consecutive month of year-over-year price gains. At the same time, the days of sub 4% mortgage rates appear to be in the rearview window after the Federal Reserve began hiking interest rates to tackle inflation in 2022. On Wednesday, the Fed is widely expected to announce it will slash interest rates for a third time this year. Still, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate was 6.6% last week, according to Freddie Mac. Yo, man, yeah, and it's crazy, man. This is exactly what we're talking about, dude. And they're not going to tell you. They're not going to point out what we just talked about the percentage of income and what that means about the increasing cost of assets versus someone's effective purchasing power. And dude, they're not going to talk about the macro chart of all that, right? And how that's been increasing for way longer than they're trying to present it. They want to present this as a momentary thing that we can fix with a Band-Aid. No, this is an issue that is fundamental in the system of how corporate money is involved in politics, guys, and how corporate money has influence over regulations and regulators, and how elites are able to use their money to entrench their positions. A major driver of wealth. Owning a home has long been considered one of the best ways to build wealth in the U.S. As a homeowner, down pays their mortgage, their home equity grows, their property's values can appreciate. You can pull loans off your home to do other things, start a business, etc. Still, Catherine Lucas McKay, Associate Director at the Aspen Institute's Financial Security Program, says she was shocked by the report's finding. It really drives home just how far ahead homeowners are in wealth, she said. Wow, that's not what it drives home. It drives home how the wage gap, not wage gap, I'm so sorry, guys, that's not what I'm talking about. The wealth gap has been increasing. It drives home exactly the position that we're putting our renters in, the lower half of our financial class in. The Aspen Institute report, which primarily uses data from 2 surveys, the Federal Reserve Survey on Consumer Finances and the Survey of Household Economics and Decision Making, found that every income quintile renters who make over 1/3 of U.S. households have less positive cash flow, more burdensome debt, and fewer savings than homeowners. Renters are more likely to hold student loan debt. Homeownership itself is a major generator of wealth, McKay said. Just by not owning a home, there are ways your wealth simply does not grow. Instead, you put more money into housing every year in rent that somebody else benefits from the value growing up. Guys, this is a serious thing, man, and it's part of exactly what I'm talking about, this larger issue of the dangers of neoliberalism, guys. And I just want to go over this picture real quick, man, because feudalism and corporatism is real, okay? And we live under, in my opinion, a form of technocratic neo-feudalism to this day, today, right? And it's highlighted by exactly what we're seeing here in this video, exactly what we're seeing here in this article, and it's the byproduct of neoliberal policies being embraced, guys. I want to get into this real quick. Monarchs are the equivalent of central bankers, right? Landed gentry are the equivalent of big bankers. Clergy are the equivalent of our corporate elite. Royal ministers are the equivalent of our elected officials, the ruling class. Merchants are the equivalent of our top bureaucrats. Vassals are the equivalent of our top professionals. And then you've got the lower class sitting there. Middle and lower class is everybody else, right? Doing all the work and getting all the penance, right? The dangers of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism, a term often associated with the modern economic policies of privatization, deregulation, and state intervention, has played a significant role in shaping the global economy. However, the ramifications of these policies extend beyond mere economic outcomes. This article delves into the inherent dangers of neoliberalism, illustrating how it serves as a precursor to a new form of feudalism, neo-feudalism, characterized by the concentration of power and wealth, the erosion of individual freedoms, and the rise of a new elite class, or the entrenchment of the current elite class, right? Concentration of wealth and power. One of the most alarming consequences of neoliberalism is the concentration of wealth and power. Neoliberal policies which promote privatization and deregulation often result in significant economic gains for large corporations and financial institutions. And I don't know how I missed this. They promote privatization and deregulation on the basis of waivers, right? And the whole idea is, hey, let's save the economy. Let's save the environment. Let's make the economy more equitable, right? Except we are going to give waivers and we're going to give special grants and we're going to word our regulations in a way where either big corporations get waivers from having to operate by them, or they give kickbacks, and so our regulators look the other way. Or this is another thing. This is another thing that is the most common way that nobody pays attention to because it's not currently seen as corruption, but it is. The regulations are worded in such a way as the cost of meeting those regulations are so expensive that individuals and people in the middle and lower classes, especially the lower middle class and below, are not able to enter the market at all on an independent level. And so it results in the entire market, through regulation, being gate-kept from anyone in the lower classes and being kept only for those who have the money to enter in the upper class. Okay. That is exactly why the privatization is an issue, right? That is exactly why the deregulation of big business is an issue, okay? And when I'm talking about privatization, I don't mean privatization as a whole. I'm talking about the over privatization of our markets, right? The obsession with privatizing everything, right? I mean, we've even we need more charity in this world. We need less for-profit systems in this world. I mean, I really like our people's voluntary donations have collapsed. I mean, our culture has collapsed as a byproduct of waiting for some big institution to solve everything for you. This leads to increasing corporate concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, creating a new elite class. According to Joel Kotlin, today's tech leaders increasingly resemble an exclusively ruling class, controlling a few exceptionally powerful companies, and like aristocracies everywhere, they are often resistant to any dispersion of their power. State and corporate intervention. While neoliberalism advocates for reducing state intervention in some areas, this is what I was alluding to earlier in the last paragraph. It paradoxically supports state intervention in others, such as corporate bailouts and central banking. This selective intervention perpetuates corporate dominance and creates dependency on the state, forming a symbiotic relationship reminiscent of feudal ties. Large corporations rely on state support to maintain their status, whilst the state relies on these corporations for economic stability and growth. The erosion of individual freedoms. As economic power becomes concentrated, individual freedoms and opportunities are increasingly compromised. Neoliberal policies often result result in reduced social mobility and greater economic inequality. People become more dependent on large corporations for employment, healthcare, and other essential services, which diminishes their autonomy. This dependency mirrors the serfdom of feudal care, where individuals had limited freedom and were heavily reliant on their feudal lords. Kotlin notes many are stranded in unstable employment and the precarious gig economy that they've gone from proletariat to precariat. The global financial institution, the influence of global financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are hallmarks of neo-feudalism. These institutions enforce neoliberal policies worldwide, leading to the standardization of economic practices that favor the elite. This global reach limits the sovereignty of individual nations, much like how feudal lords extorted control over their territories. The result is a hierarchical global society with entrenched power structures and limited social mobility, limited class mobility, guys. And they do it by preventing you from starting your own business. They do it by regulating out your ability to start your own business. They do it by managing inflation in a way where it increases their wealth, it increases their assets, but you're barely able to pay your bills enough to even get anything done by the end of the day. So you're stuck working gigs, you're stuck getting a regular job instead of pursuing what you really need to do to be successful in your own life, man. Neoliberalism, with its dual emphasis on and this is what I was trying to say, and I misphrased it in the article and I made it sound super lefty, and that's not what I was trying to do, okay? Neoliberalism, with its dual emphasis on privatization, deregulation, and selective state intervention, paves the way for neo-feudalism. All right, it's where you put an emphasis on privatization, deregulation with selective state intervention. Okay, because why, dude? You're basically having the state decide who the winners and losers are. Okay, that's basically what's going on, because you claim it's all about privatization and deregulation, and you steal these words from classical liberalism, okay? When in reality, you've got the state coming in to intervene whenever your power structures are threatened. Okay, that's exactly what the problem is. This concentration of wealth and power it results in the erosion of individual freedoms, the pervasion of the influence of global financial institutions, and creates a socioeconomic system that undermines democracy and equality. It is imperative to recognize these dangers and seek alternatives that promote a more equitable and free society, lest we find ourselves in a modern-day feudal order. And also on top of that, not only that, when I started out focusing on these articles and trying to communicate, I actually started focusing on trying to reach out to the left. And so some of these earlier articles are phrased in a way to try to get some of my left-leaning friends to be more interested in reading them, right? But I found very quickly that if you don't toe the line completely, the whole line and nothing but the line of what they expect the message to be, it doesn't matter what you're trying to say. It doesn't matter whether you care about people or not. It doesn't matter whether you guys want the world to be better or not. They shut you up and they shut you out. So I changed my strategy here, which is why I've started all this. But anyway, guys, this is a really serious conversation. I feel like this news article really highlights the importance of having these conversations, and I've got a very awesome, I want to show you guys real quick, okay? I've got a very awesome article. I think it's very serious. I want you guys to check it out. I'm dropping another article today. I wanted to get these videos out first, but I've got a very great article on here that talks about our economy, man. Talks about you know how what real economic stimulus looks like, and let's see. Let me go ahead and search real quick. Economy, an alternative economy, because I got a bunch of economic stuff. What real economic stimulus looks like, an alternative economy. This is an analogy, I feel like, for exactly what neoliberalism is. Okay, like literally, like you are in the middle of a desert, right, with potholes everywhere in the middle of a giant, massive lightning storm, but yet you've got your tiny little cash cow and you're milking it, and you and your buddies are milking it, and everybody else is just sitting here. You know what I mean? Anyway, but dude, I think this is really great. Please read this, guys. I'm not going to put you through all this right now. Look, an alternative economy, a revolutionary economic plan. I tried to wrap this around the principles of classical liberalism, and I tried to create an economic system that has the community protect itself from neoliberal entrenchment. Okay, and it's got a lot of tools and systems in place that prevent companies from creating R&D departments to then entrench themselves to try to innovate faster. Instead of creating an R&D department themselves, there's already community R&D incubators. There's already, accelerator programs and stuff like that that the community are operating. Anyway, it's a whole alternative economic plan. There's no income tax. You keep all your money you make. What actually funds community development and community infrastructure and stuff are actually business finances and finances from corporations that have a large stake, a large portion of the industry that represent a large portion of the sales in the industry that they control. Based on how large they are as a business, the business funds community infrastructure, community development, accelerator programs, and all that stuff. And individuals keep all their money, right? There is no taxing of individuals at all. It fundamentally does not see a company or a business as a person. Now that's the biggest hurdle of it, because right now they've got businesses defined as having the same rights as people, which to me is the crux of the issue, okay, to approach. But anyway, guys, check it out. Let me know what you think about it. I really appreciate you. And if you guys made it to the end, you're a real one. You're a real one. I appreciate you, bro. Hey, please check out some of my music or any of these other videos, man. Thank you so much for making it to the end, dude. I think you're awesome for that. I'll see you on the next video.